Okay.
We're rolling.
Yeah, we're rolling.
Welcome back
to episode 2
of B-Movie Bash.
B-Movie Bash.
That's what we're doing here. That's what this is called.
That's what this is called. And I think this is a very appropriate movie for the second episode.
Oh, you are so right.
Yeah, like you did a very good job picking this one for
Thank
me
you.
to watch. So,
I thought about that in advance for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be talking about Twinsanity today.
Yes.
So,
and something that I forgot to mention in the last episode, just in case anyone cares, like spoiler alert.
Yeah.
if you care.
If you care.
Spoiler alert for these movies that we talk about.
Because
imagine.
I mean, I tell you the whole fucking movie basically. So
yeah.
I mean,
and you've got like what, 4 pages of notes this time?
Nope.
More?
I took more.
Oh no.
Let me read real quick. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, buckle up, boys and girls.
6.
Buckle up.
6 pages. But that's the thing, is that I had to take all 6 pages of these notes because as I was watching the movie, I forgot major plot points because of how dumb and boring this movie actually is. Like, the first time I watched it, I thought, this is kind of interesting. The second time I watched it, I thought, this had real potential. The twin actresses, they're actually twins. They got to play, are fairly decent actress. Okay, that's a lie. One of them was a fairly decent actress. The other one was just like, why can't you?
So
let
they
me
should have pulled a Lohan and just duplicated.
They should have just had her do it. But and the other thing too is that they kept talking about how like nobody can tell us apart. Only mom could tell us apart. I'm like, you two look different. Like you actively do. Like I could tell you apart. Like what? I mean, if I didn't know you, if I saw you like the one time and then I saw the other person, I'd be like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, that's so and so. They're not like the twins we went to high school with. I can't fucking tell them apart. What were their names?
Alexa and Brienne?
No, the boys.
Oh,
those two. But yeah, I could not tell those two apart. Other than the one would talk to me. So yeah.
Cody?
No.
Brock? No.
Brock and no. Not the Bat twins.
No.
Not the Bat twins. The other ones that went to.
What boys are you talking about?
The other ones that transferred out halfway through. They went to the other school.
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Well, I remember them because they were in my ward too. So,
okay.
Yeah. Talking about my ward. Okay. Guess where we're from?
I'm gonna spew out my Red Bull. Okay.
Okay. So, do we have anything special we need to talk about before we get started?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. Let's just jump into it.
We're working on getting, platforms and stuff. We have an email.
We do.
We have an email that is bmoviebashpodcast@gmail.com. So you can send us in some bad movies for us to review.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
Because if you have some, I love fucking watching movies, man. So
I guess we didn't even say our names.
No, we didn't.
Wow. I'm Shannon.
I'm Alyssa.
Welcome.
3
minutes in. Okay. Oh boy.
Okay. Well, see, that's the funny thing is that I only took 2 pages of notes on the last movie, and that was a fucking hour-long recording. However, I feel like I can summarize this one down a lot because nonsense happened. Okay, so basically,
cool.
Twinsanity. The overall thing is that these 2 sisters have always been very close, and they do everything together, but the one sister has like always wanted to live her own life, and the other one didn't want her to.
Sure.
Yeah. So we start off with the dumbest opening I think I've ever seen to a movie, where you see this tour guide, hiking buddy guy, okay, walking along with this white couple. It's just weird because it's weird that he's black, but he's just this guy walking along with this awkward white couple that don't say anything to the whole movie. And like he did fairly decent, I thought, for his acting point for the 30 seconds he was in the movie. Anyway, so he's walking along, sees these 2 plants growing on the ground. And he's like, would you take a look at that? And they all get real down close to the ground so they can look at these plants. And he was like, that neither plant can really thrive because they grow too close together, so they can't get enough nutrients, and they're just going to eventually kill each other, kind of a thing. And then,
foreshadowing.
Okay. Right? And then you proceed to hear screaming, and he looks up and he sees this white kidnapper van, which for a second I thought, that's not the appropriate term to use for this. And then I thought, yes, actually it is. It's this white kidnapper van. People are screaming, and the van is shaking and stuff. And he comes walking up and goes, hey, is everything okay? And then they're screaming more, and then the car starts to drive forward, and he goes, hey now. and then it turns to black. And I thought,
in that situation,
like,
shouldn't you do a little more?
Yeah, but I mean, it's fine. And then it does one of the things I hate the most. 2 weeks earlier. Yes. So I believe we should not do that.
This is an American film.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Because I think it was made in America because they kept talking about California and whatnot. I keep sitting too far away from the mic. They keep talking about California and whatnot. So 2 weeks earlier, it flashes on screen, and we see a set of twins doing yoga, and one twin always has her hair in a ponytail. That is Leanne, okay?
Right.
And Celeste is the one that always has her hair down. Leanne also almost always is wearing red, and Celeste is almost always wearing blue. And I don't know why. I just thought that was like a really weird name choice for twins. I don't know why. Most of the time when people are naming their twins, they're similar.
They relate somehow.
And I just thought, these are the oddest like name choices. They're so different from each other. So that's how you tell them apart. That's how basically everyone tells them apart, is that Leanne always keeps her hair up and Celeste keeps her hair down. But the two are doing yoga. They start talking about their One Heart studio because they are Leanne and Celeste Hart. Hart, you know. And so they call their yoga studio One Heart. I'm struggling today. And Celeste is all about meditation and the healing of yoga and just how special yoga actually is, like how you should, genuinely be feeling about yoga. Yeah. And Leanne is way more on the financial side of it and how you can basically sucker people out of money for believing in this hokey stuff. And she's like, yeah, we're going to be doing, Celeste is like, we're going to be doing yoga and finding your like inner self and things. And Leanne's like, set to the hottest new beats. And like, so you're doing yoga to fucking Macklemore and shit. Yeah, is Macklemore relevant anymore?
I love to meditate to Macklemore.
It's so good. Yeah. I mean, is he still relevant? Does he still make music?
I mean,
Billie Eilish, that I guess.
Yeah.
If we did that.
Well, because you could probably meditate better.
Probably do a couple of her songs.
Yeah.
But
point stands.
Yeah. Okay. So it's fucking Ariana Grande.
There you go.
There we go.
What do the kids listen to these days?
Whatever the kids listen to. I'm fucking old. So then they're sitting there doing different yoga stands and they're talking about how if you fall, we're here to catch you. And they show Celeste doing a handstand and Leanne catching her leg so that she can help her stand up. But in the process of that, her hair falls down and it shows this wicked scar on the back of her neck. So they pause. And it flips over to them with their editor talking about the ad for the commercial. And he's like, or she's like, do we want to keep that in? I don't think we want to show off your scar and stuff. And I'm like, I mean, for an ad, I suppose you wouldn't want to do that. But Celeste is basically like, I guess, And so she's like, yeah, let's edit that out. And the editor guy is like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, okay. Leanne seems great.
Yeah. And so she's just very controlling and stuff, right? And so he's annoyed and starts getting like pissed off because he hasn't been paid yet. And she's like, no, you need to pay me like right now and stuff. She's like, no, I'll pay you as soon as we can. Like, like as soon as the store opens up, we're going to be getting all of our new income. She's like, we're all in right now. And he's like, okay, fine. And they're trying to go back to editing and they're talking about on screen about how their new opening is July 5th. Like the day after Independence Day because it's their birthday. And so that's their big thing is like they wanted to open it on their birthday. Really hokey explanation as to why. But anyway, I'm pretty sure they only did that because of the timeline needed for the movie. So that's about it.
I was just going to ask if that matters at all.
Ever so slightly, like just a tiny bit. Anyway, so the guy or Leanne and the guy are still talking. They're just going off about, well, let's edit this. And he's like, I want my money. And she's like, you'll get your money. Well, Celeste gets a phone call, answers the phone call, looks Leanne dead in the face, and Leanne's like, what's wrong? And Celeste goes, Mom's dead.
What?
Just like that. Like, Mom's dead. And I'm like,
that's not how...
I mean, I know that's a shock, but she wasn't even like, Mom's dead. Like, no, she was just like, Mom's dead.
BTW.
By the way. Yeah, and I was like, okay. So the scene flashes to like an ocean scene and they're showing that they're at a different kind of beachy place. I don't know, because I'm like, well, they were in California before and then they're like, oh, here's this beachy place over here now. Like,
okay.
Anyway, so it just shows them to like a different kind of beach and they go walking up to their mother's fucking gorgeous house. It's this gigantic house. Like, it's got to be 3 floors. Like, it's ginormous, and I love it, and oh my goodness, I would...
Best part of the movie
and stuff. And so they go walking in there, and they never explain what happens to their dad. They never talked about if he left the mom when she was pregnant, or if he died when they were younger or something. Like, they never talk about him, not once. It's only about the mom. Okay. And I'm like, they really could have literally said anything.
Yeah.
Anything. Like, well, since dad left us, all we had was mom. Like, no, they never said anything about that. So then for a good hot minute there, I was like, why the fuck does this single mother of twins have this really nice ass house?
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and the twins obviously aren't making bank because they didn't buy her this house because they can't pay their editing guy for a fucking commercial.
They're starting their own business.
Yeah. So whatever. I don't even know. So they're sitting there, looking through old photos because they have to clean out the house because they're thinking of selling it. Mm-hmm. Obviously they don't live there anymore, so they're not going to live in the house. And so they're looking at old photos and stuff, and they're like, is this me or you? Oh, that was me, I'm pretty sure, because I'm the one who liked giving talks and you didn't like anybody looking at you, kind of a thing, Leanne says. And Celeste goes, yeah, well, mom was the only one who could tell us apart. And like,
okay.
About it, right? And so then they're like, the other thing that like drives me crazy is that they're way into yoga and like way into health stuff. And Celeste keeps going with stuff like, man, do we have any more pizza? And Leanne's like, you are not eating more pizza. I'm going to have to roll you back to LA. We're going to eat some pineapple. And I'm like, that's not, no, whatever. So they're looking at old photos and kind of talking. And they see this photo of this guy that Celeste went to prom with. She was like, oh my gosh, do you remember Jack? And Leanne was like, oh, I totally remember him. He was so in love with you. I bet he still lives down the street with his mom, right? And that's just an ever so slight little nod to something later. And so then Celeste sees a photo of when she was in the hospital and how she got the scar. And she goes, do you even remember that night? And Celeste starts like, or not Celeste, Leanne starts chopping up the pineapple like aggressively now, right? And Celeste is like, yeah, I remember waking up and going to find mom. And then I don't remember. I woke up in the hospital and stuff. And she's like, that was like the day before I was supposed to go to camp. I was so excited because I was going to go alone. And obviously you're like, okay, because Leanne pushed her down the stairs. Fuck yeah, of course. Like, duh.
Yeah,
how did nobody think of that before, And she's like, where were you? And Leanne starts fake crying. And she's like, it's just so hard without mom. So Celeste goes over to comfort her and stuff, right? And then looks at her and she's like, I'll never lose you, right? And of course Celeste is like, no, you'll never lose me. And so anyway, a few seconds later, they're then reading their mom's will. And the mom left them both with a ton of money. I don't know how much money because they never show you. There is a brief second later on where Celeste has a check that she gives somebody, and apparently it's all the money that she had. It was either $7,000 or $70,000. I'm not entirely sure because it flashed so fast. I tried to pause.
Yeah.
I tried, and I couldn't see it. Anyway, so they're like, wow, this is so much money. Like, I can't believe mom left this for us. This is so great. Like, this is going to help our dreams, And Celeste was like, yeah, going to help our dreams. Like, so great. So then they're laying in bed together later. Because sure. That's what twins do.
In this giant house?
In this giant house. They're in their old bedroom, sleeping in their old bedroom.
But in the same bed.
In the same bed.
Okay.
Yeah. And just super awkwardly. Like, I mean, I get when you're kind of a hot chick, you can wear whatever you want and shit. But, like, I don't go to bed in just my underwear. I'm not a hot chick, so I just don't do that.
I don't know about that life.
Yeah. And so, like, they're both kind of hanging out in their underwear. But, well, I guess Celeste was wearing shorts, but, like, Leanne's very much not. And just, like, all up on her and touching her shoulder and just being like, I'm so excited for our future, and just touching her all over. And Celeste is laying there, like, acting like, she's been a kidnap victim for 50 years and just agreeing to what her captor says, kind of bullshit, just that look on her face as she's staring longingly at her bed, the one that, like, she slept in as a kid or something. And so, yeah, they're just super awkward, right? And so she gets up in the middle of the night because she can't sleep and goes to go do some yoga, but that's not working very well. So she gets up, sees her mom's obituary, and decides to go look at this book on the bookshelf. And I had to watch it the second time to realize that the mother had written the book. So she was an author. That's how she was able to afford this big ass house. They never said that. And had you not been paying very close attention to the 2 seconds it took her to open the book cover, Because I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I did not see that the first time I watched it. And so I'm glad I watched it the second time because I was like, oh,
you would just be wondering.
That's how she fucking did it. Yeah. So she's got money because she was a writer. Anyway, the book is like one of those self-help books, I guess. It's just talking about how you need to embrace yourself and kind of do your own things. And super creepily, as she's sitting here reading this book, Leanne is at the top of the stairs in the dark staring down at her.
Okay.
Like just staring. And I'm like, not even a, Celeste, what are you doing? Come back to bed or something. No, just staring at her.
Like they're setting up some real shit.
They're setting up some real shit, obviously. So I'm like, man, could they be any more obvious about that? Like, no, just, anyway.
Just diving right in.
Just diving right in, yeah. So Celeste goes out for a run. She's running along, and she finds this yoga studio. And she's like, wow, what a really cute yoga studio. Maybe I'll go in and do some yoga. So she glances in, and of course, there's a shirtless guy. And she's like, okay, I want to do this yoga.
Sure,
and, she wants to do the yoga. That's what she wants, yeah. So she starts doing the yoga, and as he's walking past, she sees that he's got this scar on his ankle that he's covered up with a tattoo, and she thought, what's that,
How did she see a scar if it was covered up by a tattoo?
I don't know, because I didn't see it till the second time watching it, and that's because I knew it was there.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, really stupid about that, yeah. So she stands up, and she's kind of doing another yoga pose, and he walks over to, like, kind of fix her pose, even though she's a teacher of yoga. Yeah. But he comes over to fix her pose, and she kind of freaks out because she's worried that her scar on the back of her neck is showing. And, I mean, in her defense, it is kind of a gnarly scar. But, like, she had gotten, like, spinal injury from it.
Okay, so it was like a surgery?
Yeah, it was a surgery. So it was a surgery scar. And, like, it was a pretty straight scar, but it's, like, it's a pretty long one. Like, it's gnarly.
Okay.
I mean, it's a good thing she didn't fucking die. But yeah, so Celeste goes to yoga, has a blast, and the yoga teacher is like talking about how he's going to be closing down the yoga studio soon because he doesn't have any money to keep running it. But they're going to have one last hurrah weekend.
Of course.
And so he's inviting everybody and hands out these little pamphlets and shit, right? Where is it? Oh, so she takes it, and it's not supposed to be for like another week or something, right? Or like a few days or something. And so she's like, I probably won't go. Like, there's no reason for me to go. We need to clean out the house and then, get back to LA and whatnot.
Yeah.
She gets home, and Leanne says that she's already cashed the 2 checks that their mom left them, that she bought a full page ad in the LA Times. And Celeste is just kind of feeling more trapped. So she goes back to the self-help book, like is reading it again, and just kind of decides like, no, I need to do something else with my life, I don't know what yet, but I need to do something else. So she puts her little pamphlet thingy in it and hides it up in a cupboard, like not back on the bookshelf where she got it from.
Where no one's going to look through books.
No one's going to look through books because they've been obviously sitting there for a while kind of a thing. Like Leanne wasn't going to read them. But then I kept thinking like, they're supposed to be cleaning out the house and they're doing none of that. Yeah. Like they were looking through photos and that's it. Like they didn't do anything.
They're taking
else.
Their sweet time.
Yep. The next day, I guess she goes running back to the yoga studio to go do some yoga again.
And do the yoga.
Yeah, Leanne's already there doing yoga, so she decides not to go in. Right. Okay. And I'm like, why the fuck not?
Is he gonna think that she is her?
Yeah.
Oh no.
That's totally what Celeste thinks Leanne was doing, because apparently they used to do that all the time. Is like Leanne would show up as her and stuff.
How would she even know about the yoga studio and about her meeting that dude?
Because she stalks her.
Ooh.
I know. Anyway, so Leanne is leaving the yoga studio thinking about how this guy is talking so much bullcrap, like, oh, believe in yourself and connect to nature and whatnot.
Bullshit
yoga. Yeah. And runs into Jack, Celeste's prom date from high school.
Wow.
And he's like, Celeste? And she yanks out her ponytail really quick. And she's like, it's Celeste, yeah. And like, she's like, oh, hi, Jack. And my favorite thing, too, is that for as much time as they spend together, she acts nothing like Celeste.
Yeah.
She acts like herself.
Well, he hasn't seen her for many a year.
True. So, I mean, I'll let that one slide. But, like, to other people she talks to later on, you're like,
you would know.
You would know. But so she's talking to him, and he was like, oh, my gosh, I'm so glad it's you. I thought it was Leanne for half a second. And she was like, like about to break character. And he was like, oh, my gosh, it's so nice to see you. Like, we should meet up and get some coffee. And she's like, yeah, let's do that. Let's meet up and get coffee. And anyway, so she goes back to the house, and Celeste is there and starts getting all butthurt about Sergio not knowing that Leanne is Leanne.
Oh, this is shirtless yoga man?
Shirtless yoga man is Sergio.
Of course.
Yeah. And she's like, did you even tell him who you were? And she's like, did you tell him you had a twin? And I'm like, no, it didn't come up in normal conversation. By the way, I'm a twin.
Yeah, by the way, my twin's not here, but
are there
I'm
any twins out there? Is that what you do? Like, you know, Sarah doesn't do that.
My name is this, and I have a twin.
Do you?
No,
I would not do that. I mean, unless I thought that twin was gonna, like, you know, be my evil twin, I'd probably be like, oh yeah, hi, my name is so and so. I'm the good twin. If you see the other twin, she always wears her hair in a ponytail. She great.
Yeah.
Like, no, nobody does that. No. So anyway, so she's kind of going along about how she's just like, I don't want to be this way anymore. I want to be my own person and stuff. And Leanne fucking slaps her. And is like, that's just the grief talking. And I'm like, the entire fucking time, they have not cried about their mom, like legitimately cried about their mom. They've hardly spoken about her, like, whatsoever.
That's the grief, Alyssa.
That's the grief, I guess. Yeah. Like, they've hardly spoken about her. And I'm like, okay, right. So, you know, they're just kind of arguing. It goes to that night, and Celeste wakes up to realize that Leanne's not in bed. I mean, I would know too, kind of a thing, if your sister is not sleeping in your bed with you. Yeah. And she looks out the door or out the window, and she sees that Leanne is all dressed up in her clothes. In the
different colored
clothes, and goes off on this secret rendezvous in the middle of the night. So she gets up and like follows her to be like, where the fuck are you going? And she goes over to Jack's house down the street because he does still live with his mom.
So they're doing coffee in the middle of the night.
That's what I thought. I was like, that's a weird time to have coffee. But no, they were not having coffee.
They were having coffee.
They were having coffee.
Doing some yoga.
So, yeah. And so he's got her like up against the side of the house, you know, and moaning and kissing and whatnot. And he's like, oh, Celeste. And she's like, say it again.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And Celeste sees this, and she sees like Leanne like getting off to being called Celeste. Ugh. And she's like, and so she leaves, right? She goes home.
Gotta go. Yeah.
Packs up her shit.
Good.
And goes on this yoga retreat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And so
Sergio.
Yeah. And she leaves a note. Yeah. She goes with Sergio. And she leaves a note that is just a bunch of different yoga poses. That's it.
What?
And for a good second, I was like...
Like she wrote it out?
Yeah. Like mountain pose and... fuck, I can't think of any right now. I know some of these, and like warrior pose and things like that, you know, like, but she's got them like in a list, and I'm like, okay. And for a good hot second, I was like, is this supposed to mean something?
Like, is this an enlightenment?
Yeah. Like, and I realized, oh no, it's because she's like, I'm not coming back to the yoga studio, and this is how you teach the class. Like, like that's what I figured out later.
I mean, that was kind of her, I guess,
right? But like at the same time, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that means. I'd be like, what the fuck does that mean? You know?
Weird.
That's so weird, right? But I mean, I guess if you run a yoga studio, you might know what that means. Anyway, Leanne freaks out, calls the police, and is like, I need to report a missing person. And they're like, okay, how long has she been missing? And like 3 hours. They're like, okay, well, that's not a very long time to be missing. And I'm like, except you shouldn't care about that. Like,
well, like she wrote a note.
Yeah.
She like left.
Yeah. Like she doesn't do this. This is not who she is. We have to be back in LA in a couple of days. Our flight leaves tomorrow, kind of things. At that point, as a police officer, I'd be like, okay, we should be concerned.
Be like, we don't get out of our seats for less than 24 hours. So I don't really know what
we don't do that. Yeah. They don't do that anymore because they realize that the faster they start looking for someone, the faster they get found. Anyway. So,
when was this made?
Not that long ago. I think it was 2015.
Okay.
It's not that long. Maybe it was 2015. I'll look it up later.
Okay.
I should really start writing down the years these are made.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. So they, you know, then it flashes to Celeste on this yoga retreat, and Sergio's talking about balance and finding yourself and who are you as a person. And so he tells everybody in this little like labyrinth circle thingy to team up and talk to each other and like don't hold anything back, you know? And he's like, and I mean it, really don't let anything back, or like don't hold anything back, just let it all out. This, you know, you have to release everything to find who you really are.
Okay.
And so she starts talking to this woman named Rita, who is a fucking Amazon. She is so fucking tall. Like so fucking tall. Or maybe Celeste is really fucking short. I don't know. Okay. But like she's like 3 heads taller than everybody else, I swear. And Rita's like, or he goes, okay, the first question that you need to answer each other is, who are you? And Rita's like, he knows I hate this one. And I thought, why does he know you hate this one? What's that? You know, apparently she's been on this yoga retreat like 3 times. So Rita kind of starts talking about herself, and you don't find out right here, you find out later, but she was a drug addict and an alcoholic. And so she was doing a whole lot of trying other treatments, and then she got into yoga, and it's actually helped her stay clean and realize that, you know, she needs to not live that kind of a, you know, drug addict life kind of a thing, but she still can't bring herself to face her kids. So, so she's struggling with that a lot. So she keeps coming back here because she's trying to get the courage to like face her kids and stuff. She doesn't tell all that right now, but she tells it throughout some conversations that Celeste and her have later on. And so it's a lot of conversation for that. She goes, okay, so anyway, who are you? And Celeste is like, I don't know. Like, I don't know who I am, kind of a thing. And I'm like, you don't even know your favorite color? You
I'm
clearly
on
like
a
blue.
life journey right now.
Yeah. So she's like, I just don't know who I am without my sister, kind of a thing.
The one that you left?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. But like reinvent yourself,
right?
bitch.
So make shit up then, you know? Just be like, you know what? I fucking love honey now. Pizza and honey, and that's who I am as a person. That's my shit. I'm gonna like this and blah blah blah. Anyway, they're doing yoga later. Sergio asks her if she has her own mantra, because he's got a mantra that I don't remember and I did not bother to write down because fuck it.
Okay.
And his mantra, you know, like it's what you would say while you're meditating and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, I didn't know you really could do your own mantras and stuff. And he was like, oh yeah, you can have your own mantra. It's what you believe in life, right?
Make up whatever you want.
Yeah. And so she decides throughout the movie that loss is learning is her mantra, because it was a thing that her mom used to say. Okay. And so it's her thing now, right? Anyway, they start chatting, and you find out that his parents died in a car accident that he was in. So both of his parents died when he was a kid, and that's where he got the scar on his ankle from. And he decided that he wasn't going to let that just like define who he was as a person. He started on this whole life spiritual journey thingy, and just that's why he loves yoga now, right? And that he doesn't charge people for yoga because I just want to share it.
No wonder your business is going under, sir.
And she's like, you need to charge people. And he's like, no, we survive off donations. And she's like, you don't survive
You're not
off
in
donations.
Central Park, sir.
Right? But he's been there for like 12 years or some shit. I don't remember. He's been there for actually quite a few years. Leanne, it kind of flashes back between what Leanne and Celeste are doing, kind of a thing. And Leanne is losing her fucking mind. So she's back in California because obviously she had to get on her flight. And is leaving Celeste like voicemail after voicemail after voicemail, like, call me back, you can't just do this, like you're nothing without me, this is us, this is our business, how could you do this to me, just over and over and over and over and over again, right?
And the yoga retreat, is it somewhere where she doesn't have cell service? Or?
No, she does. She just doesn't. She just has her phone turned off, so she just doesn't want to talk to her sister. And I'm like, okay, that's understandable. But I mean, it kind of a dick move that this is also your business that you have money sunk into. Yeah. Like, and you're just abandoning it.
And you're the one who likes yoga.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. And so I'm like, okay, that's fine. So it's days, and it shows them like doing a lot of yoga and meditating and talking. a lot of meditating and yoga. And Leanne is just day after day calling and leaving voicemail after voicemail after voicemail. And then it shows everybody sitting around the campfire and just singing and having a good time and just la 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 la. Right. And everybody seems to know what the tune is as they're pounding on these drums that they clearly don't know how to play, singing a tune they don't know what to sing, but going la 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 la, and it sounds great. And I'm like, okay, when did they practice this? Because fuck that.
I mean, for the past 3 days, maybe.
And then I realized, as they're sitting there waving this teeny tiny little American flag, it's the 4th of July, so they're celebrating the 4th of July.
Are they singing an American song?
They're just singing. They're just singing la 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 la.
They're not like la la la.
No,
okay,
just la 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 la.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
And then it shows Leanne, and she's, one last voicemail. And she's like, just please tell me you're going to be here tomorrow. Just please let me know you're okay and that you're going to be here tomorrow because I need you to be here tomorrow, And then it shows like the fireworks bursting outside of the yoga studio, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, tomorrow is their birthday, and it's the day of the opening, right? She doesn't show up.
Of course
not.
Would you? No.
No, right? But she has a nightmare that her sister's hand starts coming out of the scar on her neck, like grabbing her hand and stuff. It's kind of creepy, yeah. So Celeste wakes up and she's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. So she goes to ask Rita for help, and it's like 2 a.m. and Rita's like, aha, you're here for pancakes. And she's like, what? And she's like, I gave up drugs and alcohol, but I can't give up 2 a.m. pancakes. And you're like,
oh yes.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Yep. And so anyway, so they start chatting a bit, and that's when Celeste learns a lot more about Rita's life and the drugs and blah, blah, blah. And Rita gives her some great advice about how she needs to invest in herself and invest in what you want to do. Like this is your life. Yeah. You need to live it, kind of thing. Nobody can live it for you.
Manifest your shit.
Yep, kind of thing. So then it shows Leanne at the opening of the yoga studio that day, and like the yoga studio is packed, right? And she walks in and she's like, hi everybody, I'm Leanne, blah blah blah, let's get this started. And people are like, where's Celeste, is she not teaching today? And Leanne's like, she couldn't be here with us today, but that's okay, I'm here, I got this, we've got this and stuff. And so she starts like teaching the yoga class from the paper that her sister left her. And that's when I was like, oh, she left her that. But like, it's literally half of a paper of mountain pose and warrior pose and
Shavasana.
Downward facing dog. And like,
what are you doing if you don't know these?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Like, you should know yoga, first of all. And I mean, I guess I would understand if she like didn't know the order in which Celeste was going to teach that day. But it's like half a piece of paper. I'm like, that's like a 5-minute yoga class.
Yeah, like here's 3 poses.
Yep.
Do them for a while.
Yep, just keep doing them 16 times over.
We're just going to cycle through.
Yep, again and again and again. And I mean, I know that is a lot of yoga, is that you do a lot of repetitive things, but like, it's hardly a yoga class. Yeah. And so she gets them to do the cat stretch and stuff, and she's like, pop that booty, and I'm like, ugh.
I thought you were gonna say something else.
And so then she gets up and she's like, okay everybody, like do this pose now and stuff, and she turns on some music to start kind of jamming to, and everybody's kind of, what the fuck is happening? And I'm like, how did they have one successful yoga studio where they do this? This is their second studio. Yeah. So how is this like people are acting like this has never happened before? Yeah. So like,
Celeste must have had a big hand in it.
I don't know, because that's like Leanne's big thing, is that she's like, no, we do it to the hottest music. It's our brand, she says at one point. Ew. And yeah, I know. And so then she's walking around and she's like not correcting anyone's poses, but she's like slapping girls on the butt.
No. Assault.
And I was very much like, I would be like, okay, that's enough yoga forever. I'm never coming back. And so she just like spanks the lady, and the lady's like, the fuck?
Yoga forever.
The lady keeps doing the yoga pose. I'd have been like, at least drop or something. No, she's got her anyway. As they're doing this, the video editor guy and I guess the guys that were doing the modeling on the studio come in and start screaming, Leanne Hart, where are you, Leanne Hart? And she's like, everybody do child's pose, and runs out, and she's like, what the fuck are you doing? And they're like, we want our money, our checks bounced. And she's like, what? That's impossible. And they're like, well, they did. And she's like, well, I had money in my account this morning, yada yada. And he's like, well, they bounced, so we want our money, we want it right now, we're not leaving. And he gets like real fucking close to her face, like real fucking close. Yeah. Like creepy close, right? And he's like, how are my wife and kids supposed to eat, blah 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 blah, right? Like, and she's like, okay, well, I'll give you what I have. And so she just goes and she grabs, like, she starts pulling the money out of the cash register, right? Mm-hmm. As people are leaving, because obviously what the fuck is happening, right? Yeah. And so they're leaving, and she's pulling the cash out of the register, and he's like, where's Celeste, by the way? Like, kind of casually, like, where's Celeste? And I'm like, fuck you were just screaming at her, first of all, okay?
You're like, oh, by the way.
Yeah, and then she's like, she's not here, and like, throws the money at him. She's like, she's not here, okay? And like, has this total little mental breakdown, which, I mean, I can't entirely blame her for. Yeah. But like, I just feel like all of this should have like come to a head a long time ago, right? Like, not, anyway. So you find out that Celeste had actually gone, and I don't know when she did this, because all she did was write a check. she takes her half of the money and tells Sergio that she wants to give it to him so that he can continue his yoga studio.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money. And I don't know, again, if it was $7,000 or $70,000.
$35,000.
Yeah, like it was a lot of money, okay? I'm just saying, if she took that much money out of her account that they weren't able to pay the video editing guy and the other 2 construction guys, like...
Leanne was doing it wrong.
Leanne was doing something wrong, right? So Celeste, she takes her money, she goes to give it to Sergio, and he's like, I can't take this. I just can't. And she's like, well, it's not entirely a gift. You have to hire me. I want to stay in town and do the yoga studio. And they're like, okay.
Why wouldn't she just be like, I want to buy your studio? Or, like...
Yeah. Well, she was like, I want you to hire me. And he goes, pretty sure you're my boss now, kind of a thing and stuff. And anyway, they kiss. And because obviously it's a really romantic moment. Let me give you, I don't know how much money, but... Sure. Yeah. And so, yeah, they kiss and things kind of start... getting a little hot and
Start
heavy.
Start to do yoga.
Okay. And all of a sudden she hallucinates Leanne like up on top of him, and she's like, whoa, and freaks out. And so he immediately goes to, well, you need to talk to your sister because you'll never be free from her if this is how you left it, kind of a thing. Like you just left, And so she's like, you're right. I will never be free from her unless I tell her I'm going to be free from her, kind of a thing, right?
Okay.
So Leanne is sitting at home that night eating a birthday cake by the handful, like just fistful of cake. And I'm like, that's how you eat cake, bitch.
That's how you do it.
And reading reviews about her yoga studio and checking the bank account and realizing that it's in the negatives and stuff. And I'm like, how much money? You got half.
Yeah.
Half of this, like, you got the same amount of money she did. What are you spending all of your money on? Kind of a thing. Like, anyway. And so she's just sitting there checking all this stuff, and Celeste calls, and she's like, Celeste, just come back home. Everything will be okay. Just come back home. And Celeste is like, no, I'm not coming back home. And she's like, what do you mean? And she's like, I'm going to stay here with Sergio. And she's like, you don't even know him. And I'm like, you're right. This is so totally Disney princess. Like, and... she's like, no, I'm going to stay here. And she's like, you have her, or like, he has you completely controlled and stuff. And she's like, no, I want to live my own life and be my own person. And she's like, and the money, you just took all that money. And she's like, I took my half of the money. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I guess, sure, that's it is true. Your half of the money, but like, you're also business partners.
Not no more.
Anyway. And so she's just like, I'm never coming back, right? And then hangs up. And Leanne starts like staring at herself in the mirror and starts slapping the shit out of herself. Like slapping the shit out of herself.
And the girl that needs yoga.
Yeah.
Does not have it.
Nope. And then punches the mirror, right? And then freaks out and grabs a piece of the glass, and you think, oh, she's going to go fucking kill Celeste now, right?
Yeah.
And then you see like it does a black flash, and then you see the bloody piece of glass sitting on the table, and you're like, oh man, she totally cut her hand, what the fuck, right? So Celeste and Sergio are really starting to fall for each other now. He keeps hyping up how she needs to trust him and trust in balance and trust in life, kind of a thing. And she's talking about how he's doing one of those handstands all by himself, right? Mm-hmm. That they showed at the beginning of the movie that Leanne caught her for.
Right.
And she goes, I haven't been able to do that since I fell down the stairs. And he's like, what? Why not? And she's like, I just, feel like I'm going to keep falling. And he's like, well, you got to trust in balance and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, except she could actually have an actual imbalance. That's all I'm saying. But like
medical issues, sir.
Yeah. And so she's like, I don't know about that. And then he starts more yoga hype shit. And I really wish, I can't even write down half of everything he's saying. Half of it I was sitting there listening to being like, man, I should take yoga because I don't know what any of this means. Like, and so she tells him that, or he goes, maybe I should write a book. Ha ha ha. And she goes, yeah, you can call it Open Heart Surgery.
No.
Surgery. That's it. Like, and he laughs like that's funny.
No.
Surgery. Like, no. And anyway, and then he said something funny that she's laughing at.
Imagine pulling a book off the shelf and trying to read surgery.
Yeah, I couldn't even read it from my own fucking notes.
That's the dumbest
thing. Also, I love that she's like, by the way, put my name in it.
Put my name in it.
My name is Hart. Did you know? Like, no, fuck you, bitch. Yeah, you're kind of dating, and yeah, you're now business partners, but like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Anyway, he gets really sappy, but he's actually kind of funny. Some of the things he says is like, okay, he's kind of funny. And the more you like pay attention to him, the more you're like, okay, he's actually like genuinely awesome, and I'm rooting for him this whole time, like,
okay,
you know.
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't even fucking care about Celeste. I need more Sergio. Like, change your name, but I need more Sergio. So they're out walking, doing more yoga shit. A lady from the resort, because they're staying at a resort, and I'm like, do you wonder why your fucking, or like your business is going under? You're staying at the nicest fucking resort I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Yeah.
And each of them have their own separate cabins. They have a private cabin.
That would do it.
Yeah, that would do it, right? And I'm like, how much are these people paying for this? Because, I mean, some of that...
Just donations.
Yeah, they're... she's walking along with Rita, and then this front desk clerk girl comes up to her, and she's like, oh, Miss Hart, I have your other key you asked me for. And she's like, I asked you for a key?
No.
And she's like, yeah. And she's like, I didn't ask you for a key. And she's like, a half hour ago, you spoke with me. And I didn't have the key at the time, so I said I'd get it to you. And so she like gives it to her, and Celeste goes, okay, if anyone else asks you for a key to my cabin, don't give it to him, even if it's me. And she's like, okay.
Why? That's a really weird request.
Yeah. And so she runs to her cabin like to see if Leanne's in there, and she doesn't see Leanne, but she totally gets spooked by her own reflection for a good like 10 seconds and is like, like, it's kind of dumb. But yeah, so there she doesn't find her in there, and she's like, okay, I'm just being crazy. I'm just thinking of things, right? I'm just, seeing things again. So Sergio takes them up the mountain and gives everyone mushroom tea. And Celeste starts tripping the fuck out. And everybody in the tent turns into other forms of herself. And she's like, so she freaks out and keeps thinking she's seeing someone running outside the tent, right? So she leaves the tent and sees who she thinks is Leanne in the distance, right? And she thinks she's tripping, right? And she's like, I'm not running from you anymore. And then the fucking figure, like, bolts at her.
No.
Like, yeah, just comes at her, and then everything goes dark, right? Then later they show Celeste, quotation marks, waking up in her cabin, and Rita's like, hey, I found you walking around in the woods, like, and yeah, that hallucination tea really takes it out of you, and is making her pancakes, right? And is talking because that's all Rita knows how to make, apparently, is pancakes.
We love Rita.
And like immediately starts talking about how she's like, so when I was hallucinating, I saw my kids. And I'm like, which is fine because like, she thought she's talking to Celeste about how, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And she's talking to her and is like, this is what I need to do, yada, yada. Anyway, what did you see in the tea? Celeste goes, I saw my sister and I realized that I was terrible to her and that I'm ruining her life. And Rita's like, you can't blame yourself for that, hun. Like, you can't just, wait, I thought you said you didn't have a sister. And she's like, I do. I didn't tell anyone because I'm a terrible sister. And like, just like goes off for a hot minute about how she's just like, how Celeste is a bad fucking sister. And so Rita's like, oh, honey, come here, and like gets up to hug her, and as she hugs her she feels something grody on the back of her neck and realizes that Leanne has cut herself down the back of the neck just like Celeste's scar, and it's like fresh grodiness, right?
That's what she did with the glass?
Yeah, that's what she did with the glass. She cut her own fucking neck. Right? And so Leanne gets up and she's like, you can't know, and then stabs her. Like, she did nothing to stop.
Hugged her.
Yeah. But she also did nothing to like cover up the bleeding gash wound out of the back. She flew there. How did she fly there with that? Because there's no way she drove across country.
No.
There's no way she drove. She flew.
Yeah.
And so I'm like,
TSA is not doing their job.
No, they're not. How do they not notice?
They're like, we checked your shoes, move on through.
Yep. And
but she had a knife.
She got the knife from the table. Oh, okay. So she grabs a knife and she just like stabs Rita in the back as Rita goes to run away. But like the whole time though, Rita was like, "It's okay, it's all right, it's okay, we got this. Everything's cool. I'm here to help you. I can help you." And then Leanne's like, "No one can help me. I want Celeste." And so she stabs her, and she. Then is the whole time talking to herself like, oh my gosh, okay, I just gotta move the body, I gotta hide the body, and like picks her up and moves her into the bathroom, okay, like into their little shower thingy, which is very see-through glass, and I'm like, anyway, perfect, yeah. And so hides her in there, but she's just mumbling the whole time about, it's gonna be okay for next him, and then I'm gonna get Celeste, and then we're gonna go, and then she leaves, and she's like, she's dead. And I fucking died laughing at that part. Like, because she's just like whispering to herself as she's like getting ready to leave the cabin and stuff to go find where, find where Sergio is, because Celeste is still knocked out on the trail. Okay. And so Celeste wakes up and is like, where the fuck am I? And so she goes to go down the mountain and figure out where everything is. Where is everybody? Why did they just leave me up there? And
where is everybody? Why did they just leave her up there?
But apparently this is like same fucking day, or it's like the next day or something, because then she walks up to find Sergio and everybody else making or like putting together a surprise party for Celeste, right? A happy birthday party. And I'm not sure if this is on the 6th, like they found out that they were like, oh shit, her birthday was on the 5th?
Right.
Shit, we gotta do a birthday party for her, right? And so they're doing a birthday party, and Leanne walks up as Celeste, and Sergio's like, oh my gosh, you're early. Rita was supposed to keep you for another 20 minutes. Yeah, well, Rita's dead. And so he goes up and kisses her, and she's like, can we talk for a minute? And he's like, yeah, sure. And so they go into into his cabin, and they're chatting for a second, and he goes, I have a gift for you. And he gives her the ugliest necklace I've ever seen in my life, but it's okay. But apparently it's really important because he made it for her with her mantra. So, but in crap, I don't know the language that they use for yoga. I'm trying to think of it. I just spaced it. I don't remember. If anyone knows, I'm very sorry. I don't do yoga, clearly. But so he's got it written in that language, right? And so she's like, what does it mean? And he's like, it's your mantra.
Obviously.
Yeah, loss is learning. And she's like, right. Where's the money? And he's like, oh yeah, I still have the check. And she goes, I think I should hold on to it. And he goes, of course. And grabs it and gives it to her. And she's like, that easy? And he was like, yeah. Are
you giving me a reason for it to be not that easy?
Right? And she was like, but why? And he just goes off for like the sappy minute about how he's like, when I drink the tea, I saw us together in the future. And he's like, and whatever that is, whether we're just business partners, whether we're just friends, whether we're in love, he's like, I just know I want you in my future. Aww. That's it. And I was like, Sergio. Like, so the whole time you're just like, then you see all of the rest of them, I guess, are leaving. Sergio, like, they all get in a van to go on another hike or whatever, right? Another journey. And Celeste makes it back into the cabin area and is in a daze walking past the same lady that tried to give her a key a little bit ago, right?
Oh.
And yeah, so she walks up, or like, it's totally just kind of like, I gotta get to my cabin, I guess, because I got fucking knocked out.
Gotta find somebody.
And so she goes in there and she hears flies buzzing. This has got to have been like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I have no idea.
She hears vultures cawing as they pick at Rita's body.
And I'm like, I mean, I don't really know how fast flies work, but, and I mean, maybe it's a little different when you're up the mountain. Maybe if she like, never mind. I don't know. But then she sees that there's like blood on the floor, and Leanne did a very bad job cleaning up, is all I'm saying.
And so she stuffed her in a see-through shower, so she's really good.
Yeah, she walks up and sees something in the shower and like opens the door and sees that it's Rita and is like, oh, Rita. And then the fucking cabin lady, the clerk lady, sees it and goes, oh my gosh. And Celeste, still kind of in a daze, turns around and is like, what? And she's like, oh, please don't hurt me, and then runs out. And I'm like, you literally just saw her walk up in a daze and followed her to her cabin. How would she have had any time to kill this girl?
Yeah. And did she hear her say, Rita?
Yeah. I have no idea. So she freaks out, and the clerk lady runs off and calls the police, right? Okay. And so Celeste is like, oh, shit, I don't know what to do now, right? As Celeste is hiding in the bushes, she looks up to see this lady and a baby, like, getting out of the driver's seat of the car to walk up to the front of the cabins, conveniently drops her keys, right? Sure. And you're like, well, I mean, she's got a baby in her arms. That's whatever, right? But she drops it right next to the car. And I'm like, I mean, I guess if you're just walking up to be like, oh, hey, sorry, here's something I was meaning to give you. I'll just go grab my keys in a second, you know?
Yeah.
Or can you hold my baby while I go grab my keys? Because clearly this baby's knocking keys out of my hands and stuff. So Celeste sees this, sprints over, grabs the keys, and jumps in the car and drives off, right? And I don't know how she knew where she was going, unless Sergio at some point had said, this is where we're going tonight.
Right.
Well, they drive up there, and they're walking in the dark for a good little bit. And I'm like, this day is going by really fast. It's a really fast day. So it's dark. It's nighttime. And Celeste goes up to the mountain, and she's running around, and she's like, Sergio. And then realizes, I need to just listen.
No.
So she just listens for a second, and then she hears everybody giggling and laughing, right? And so then she follows the giggling and laughing of the campfire where everybody is.
But they didn't hear her?
They didn't hear her.
Okay.
No.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah. And so Leanne, as Celeste, asks Sergio if they can go for a walk. And he's like, yeah, of course. And so they get up and they're walking. And as they're walking, she puts her hair up in a ponytail because she's Leanne. And is talking to him about how she's like, so how do you do it? And he's like, do what? And she's like, how do you get them all to believe you? Like, believe the crap you're saying? And he's like, what?
Oh,
what are you talking about? And she was like, how did you get her to believe you? And he's like,
oh, God.
Celeste, what are you talking
you couldn't
about,
just
right?
live your life.
Right? Like, just fucking kill her and be Celeste. I don't fucking care. You know, like, that's what you really wanted. But she doesn't. That's not what she wants, right? And so she's, like, talking crap about him. And he's like, no, I genuinely want people to, like, be happy and stuff. She's like, you even believe your own crap. And he's like, what is happening? And she stabs him. And so he's, like, laying there bleeding out kind of a thing. And Celeste is running around as she runs into them. And she's like, Leanne, where's Sergio? And so Leanne takes her over. Like, clearly you can tell Leanne's not very good at this because she's just trying to get Celeste, like, just whatever she can do to get to Celeste, right?
Yeah.
And goes up to her and is like, he's over here. And, like, in a daze, walks her over to his body where he's like, Celeste, bleeding out, right? Yeah. She's like, no, Sergio, no. Oh, Sergio, he needs help, Leanne. This isn't you. And she's like, you don't even know who I am, blah, blah, blah. So they're just screaming back and forth at each other. And it's rehashing a lot of the same shit. They just keep saying over and over again about how we can't survive without each other. And you need me and I need you. And there's no us. Like, if they're, blah, 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 blah. Then the cops show up at the campfire, so they're over there, and Celeste is like, listen, we could just get him to them. He needs help. Please, he needs help. And she's like, no, he took you away from me, and I can't let this happen anymore. She's like, no, please, like, listen, I'll leave. I'll go wherever. I won't be Celeste anymore. You can be Celeste. I don't care. And she's like, no, I don't want to be you. I want to be us. And then knocks Celeste out because she starts screaming for help. And I'm like, the police would have heard that. They absolutely would have heard that. Yeah. But I guess apparently not, because if nobody else around the campfire can hear her screaming Sergio, then I don't know. Oh, but then, right before that, she was like, oh, the police are here. They'll sort this out and stuff. And she was like, no, do you really think they'll believe, like, the evil twin thing? All I have to do is take off into the woods, and they're going to see that or everybody said that you walked off into the woods with Sergio and you're covered in his blood and blah, 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 like all this stuff. And she's like, oh my gosh. And then she gets knocked out. Then she wakes up in the camp, the van that they've all been riding around in, which is a nice white van that says, like, the resort name on it, right? But now it's a kidnapper van.
Right.
So, because she's now been kidnapped and stuff. And so Leanne's driving along and Celeste is like, what the fuck just happened to me? And she's like, oh, good morning. Hello. Yeah, this is so great for us. We're just going to go start over. Everything's going to be fine. We have to come up with new names. Oh my gosh. You know what? You can come up with our new names and we can do whatever you want to do because, it's totally fine. If you want to do more yoga, we can do more yoga. I'll do whatever you want to do, Celeste. Like, just going on about this. And so Celeste is like trying to like open up the door and she's like, you stop that right now and stuff. And so then instead she grabs the steering wheel and brings it to a stop right where it was at the beginning of the movie, right? Mm-hmm. And they're fighting for a second and stuff. And she gets out of the car and they're running around and they're punching each other. And then Celeste runs over to the driver's seat and gets in the driver's seat, right? And then Leanne jumps in the passenger seat, kicks her in the face like 3 times. Ooh. And then they're just kind of stopped for a second and are like, like staring at each other, panning. And then Leanne's just kind of going off about how you're nothing without me again. And it's us. It's always been us. It's never going to be anything but us kind of a thing. And so Celeste is like, yeah, you're right. If it's going to be us, it's going to be us to the end. And then hits on the gas pedal and drives forward and conveniently off a cliff. And so they're falling down. And as they're falling, Leanne's like, oh my gosh, and looks over at Celeste. And Celeste starts reaching for her. And for a second, you think they're going to like grab hands. No, she's reaching for the necklace with her mantra on it.
Oh my Lord.
And I'm like, first of all, how did you know that was your mantra necklace?
Yeah.
But like, anyway, I don't know. So she's reaching for it and then it crashes and it all goes black. And then it does 1 year later. And I hate those, right?
Yes.
So it's 1 year later, and it's showing their mom's gorgeous house again. And it's like a pale baby blue, and it's got white trims and everything. Fuck, man, you love it. And there is a realtor talking about how she is legally obligated to tell the new owners that this is the home owned by the One Heart twins, and how the one died, but the other sister was acquitted and is ready to sell. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure she only is like, I don't know what state this is in, but I think you're only legally required to tell people if somebody died in the house.
Yeah. Not like, so, oh, by the way, someone died in general.
The person who owned it fucking killed over. Like, it was terrible. I mean, they got stung by a bee and just died like 6 blocks down the street from here.
I'm legally obligated to tell you.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. I'm legally obligated to tell you that all of the murders that were associated with this family were like 500 miles away from here. It's just, I'm just telling you right now. That's what happened.
Before you buy this house, before you commit. Mm-hmm. Here you go.
Yeah. And I'm like, I feel like you could do that with literally anybody and stuff. So I don't know. So they're walking through the house, and the lady who's thinking of buying it is like super preggo. And they open up a door and they see somebody doing yoga, right? But their hair's down. But they're standing perfectly fine by themselves, like on their hands, standing up the balance pose. Oh. And you're like, oh my gosh, is this Leanne kind of a thing? And because she's got the scar and whatnot. And then she gets up. And oh no, her hair was in a ponytail, not down. It was in a ponytail. And so
but
I was
you can see the scar.
You can see the scar. So you're like, oh fuck, I don't know, right? And so she gets up and she's like, oh sorry, no, I was just about to leave. I was just saying goodbye to the house, blah blah blah, right? And she's like, oh okay. And the pregnant lady's just like,
great.
And she's like, oh, congrats on the baby. She's like, babies,
it's twins.
It's twins. And she's like, and Celeste just gives her this like,
good luck with that.
Look, yeah. And goes to leave. And you're like, who is she really, though? Like, is it Leanne or is it Celeste? Because they never say, like, who it is kind of a thing. But as she goes to leave, she stops and pulls out this bag of candy that Sergio used to eat and puts a piece in her mouth. And I'm like, oh, so fuck, it's Celeste. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Duh.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, Leanne would not have known. Okay. Like, she was not there to hear any of that. So, like, the exact brand and everything. So, like, there's no way that Leanne would have known. So, of course, it's Celeste. And she's off living her best life kind of a thing now. And I'm like,
that's good.
And
yeah. Okay.
Yep. So, and I literally had to take all these fucking notes because I'm like, I forgot that their fucking mother died. I forgot that, like, oh, before she leaves, she also goes and gets the book she hid in the cupboard out.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, because,
they didn't sweep the house. They didn't
nothing.
Clean it out completely.
Well, it's like empty, but that's it. That's what they left. They took everything else in the cupboard out except for that book.
Yeah, like, let me get my book and the chicken and a biscuits that are in here. Like, why?
No, just...
Okay.
So, yeah. So that's the end. It just kind of sucked in general. I mean, I really thought Leanne was a fairly good actress, except for her weird whispering, like, it's okay, it's gonna be okay, she's dead. Like, yeah. But I mean, I guess it's way more fun to act crazy than not. True. Kind of a thing. Like,
True. Do we have a rating for this movie?
I might give it a 5 out of 10.
Okay.
It tried. I genuinely feel like they tried with this one. It just wasn't very good. So,
do you know if it like went to theaters or anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I literally found it in my obscure Netflix searches.
Love.
So it's still on Netflix. Last I checked. So I mean that's where I watched it a couple days ago again. But I mean I watched this like 3 months ago and it was still on there. So
all right, that was a fun one. That was interesting.
I was so bored watching it again a second. I was just like.
Well, then it took you like longer to watch it because you were pausing.
I was pausing and writing notes. Yeah, but I was so bored watching it. I'm like,
I'm sorry.
I mean, at least the last one had weird, awkward, like babysitter corrupting children things.
True. That is a plus.
Yeah. So this one, I'm just okay. That's what this one is.
This is it. Okay. Well, if that's not a recommendation enough, I don't know what is.
My one-word summary of this one was just Twinsanity.
That's not fair.
It was boring.
Okay.
That's what So,
okay.
I mean, unless you're into yoga, you might actually enjoy that part of it.
But I don't even know if that aspect is enough to save it.
Sergio, I think, was worth it.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't that hot. I didn't think he was, like, the hot shirtless guy.
Yeah.
He was handsome, but not hot. Like,
were there any, like, people in this movie?
Yeah, there's a lot of other people. Like, just...
I mean, like famous people.
Famous... no.
Okay.
No. I had to go look up the twins, and they're, like, legit twins, so...
Cool.
Yeah. Well, because I'm like, they're not the same person. They can't possibly be. Like, their faces look ever so slightly different.
Right.
But
not enough.
But
because
not enough.
They're so identical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, only their mom can tell them apart. And I'm like, of course you can tell them apart. But, like, the whole time, every time Leanne was pretending to be Celeste, she, like, held her, like, her back was straighter, and she was just, like, held herself to this higher, I don't know, just the snootier everything. Like, and I mean, like, right there at the end, I can kind of understand some of that because she's cray now.
Yeah, she's not even, like,
any other time they showed her, she was, like, just...
Oh, yes, I am Celeste.
I'm so Celeste.
That is correct.
Because Celeste is not Leanne.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Definitely not Leanne pretending to be Celeste. Don't be fooled.
Oh, don't you be fooled. So, that's that one.
Well, thank you.
Yep, thank you. So, and next week we're going to be watching House of the Witch.
Yeah. What's that on? Do you know what platform?
That one's on Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people can watch along if they want.
Yes,
that would be interesting.
if you want to.
Or you can go in blindly like I am and just, stick around for the ride.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Sweet.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.